All right, welcome to the second day of the Developer Summit. Nice and rainy today, but at least we have the fireplace in the back. That's pretty sweet. I just have a couple quick announcements before we get started. The first thing is that we are adding an additional conference room today because we have so many unconference sessions proposed. So upstairs, on this side of the building, there is a room called Oak, and we will have small unconference sessions in there. Okay, so then for yesterday, everyone is taking notes on their sessions. On the wiki, we have pretty clear instructions about how note-taking should be done in terms of what formatting on Etherpad, moving it to the wiki, and then posting it on the Fabricator task. Shrishti will be in the back all day to help people with that if they need help or need help adding things to Fabricator, and Melody Kramer is working from home creating Etherpad sessions in advance of the sessions today for you. So all you have to do is go to the program, click on your session, and you have an Etherpad ready to go, ready to take notes. I just want to address also some of the mid-event feedback that we got yesterday. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted feedback to us, either verbally or written. So we added some extra black tea for people who wanted that. We have some notepads available for people who needed them. We added some hand sanitizer to the front desk. And there was one piece of feedback that we couldn't address, which was a request to add tape lines from the reception desk to each conference room in different colors. So we were sorry that we couldn't do that, but in order to address that, we tried to add some additional signage to the front area to help you find the conference rooms, and there are definitely maps at the front, and anyone up at the front can help you find any rooms that you need. And then we also added that quick little announcement in the morning for people for the unconference sessions so that they could pitch their sessions to make sure you all had time to vote. Not all of the unconference sessions today are going to get rooms, but remember that tomorrow, the Get Stuff Done Day, is exactly for following up on everything, all the great ideas that you had, and all of the sessions that you want to continue to run. So you can do that more informally tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to bring Kim up here, who's going to start our Q&A off.
Four, five, six. Hello, hi, good morning. So I'm a bit scared because there's no slides in this session. So please bear with us. So this is the Q&A with Victoria and Wes, CTO and VP of Product at the Wikimedia Foundation. We started this survey a month ago or so. It lasted 25 days, and basically it was just a game to come up with some questions today. After 25 days, 1,840 votes on 40 ideas, we got a prioritized list of questions. And what we're going to do here today is we're going to start with question number 1, and we're going to hear what Victoria and or Wes want to share about it. We might discuss a bit that question, and then we'll move to the next one. I want to just explain the discuss a bit part, because only the first question could get us for the entire summit. As part of the game, we are going to ask that whoever wants to ask, comment, say anything about a question can do it with one condition, that you're going to take an action related to that question after the summit. Anybody can say anything about a question with the condition that you're going to get involved with the answer after the summit. I think it's a fair trade. And be careful, because we've got as note takers Kevin Smith, Nick Quidity, and Andrew Clapper. They don't miss a thing, I can tell you. Plus, there's video recording. Plus, these 3 people are not only note takers, they are also among the most avid creators of Fabricator tasks, and they know very well how to assign it to people, okay? Well, sorry, you get the joke. We try to find a balance between a session that is, we want to hear them, we also want to have a conversation. Good. Let me see if I'm missing anything. We also have Erica and Melody paying attention to what's happening online. This is being streamed live now. And I think that's pretty much it to start. So, where's Victoria? Just grab a mic. Please introduce yourselves.
Thank you. I'm Wes Moran. I'm the Vice President of Product. And then for the last year, I've also served in an interim role, as CTO, essentially. And I thank all the teams that I worked with over the last year and the managers who helped get through that process together. So I also want to thank you and Rachel and the team for the event so far. It's been great, and I look forward to the next day. So.
Nice to see everybody again today. I'm glad I made it in time. I had to drive up from Menlo Park today. And with weather like this, it's always a dicey proposition driving in the Bay Area. I enjoyed the session yesterday very much, and I look forward to more of it today and tomorrow. I guess by means of way of introduction, I'm Victoria Coleman. I'm the incoming CTO for the foundation. I joined November 7th, so this is almost 2.5 months. So, there are days when I think that the training wheels can come off, and then there are days when I think, no, bring them back. So today it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I wanted also to thank, Kim and the team that pulled this together. When we started thinking about the session and what would bring the most benefit to you all today, we figured it was best just like to give you the opportunity to think ahead about what you wanted to talk about today. And they put together, I think, a great kind of precedent through this all our idea system that personally I would like to keep going after the event today as well. So with that, far away.
Question.
Yeah, actually you make a good point. So don't expect any answers today. It would be suspicious if they could come out with, yeah, look, the answer is X. It's like, okay. Also don't expect any decisions in the summit in general, especially now in this session. All these are conversation starters or continuation of conversations. And also an important note is that I don't know how long we'll get today down the list, but 40 questions is a lot. But that's also relative because we will continue going through the list of topics that are relevant, and we'll find the times and the venues to continue those conversations. Okay? All right, so question number 1. How can we ensure timely reviews of volunteer contributions to MediaWiki code?
So who wants to take that?
I think there's a number of things that we're going to start doing, or that we've been building towards as far as the timely reviews are concerned. We've been talking with the team about doing better, setting up a code review session and team to focus on it specifically and give an owner to it, as well as some of the things that we discussed in the platform discussion yesterday. There's a lot of alignment as far as what needs to be done, and we want to actually start building that into the annual plan so that it has a commitment to it once and for all.
So I think this touches on a kind of more general topic, right? So which is about how do we, certainly keep our house in order, but also how do we do a timely job of both addressing new contributions, new contributions, as well as stuff that's been sitting on the floor, in tech debt. Thank you, Ward Cunningham, for a very long time. So one of the things that I'd like us to see us do, and we're beginning the process of pulling that together. I made mention of that yesterday, is to really start also a very systematic way of addressing tech debt. It's hard to do, and you all know the reasons why. I mean, there's always a new shiny object that you have to go off and implement. There's always the kind of the latest and greatest, feature to be built. But at the same time, we really do need to pay attention both, to stuff that we're going to do, but also the stuff that comes from the community and sitting there waiting to be reviewed. So one of the things that we're going to do, at least in the technology team, and I know Wes is thinking that maybe this makes sense for the product team as well, is to start thinking about the work that we do, code reviews and all, in 4 different buckets. Okay, we have interesting rain. So we're going to have a bucket of goals that all the teams kind of pick up that relate to the top-level goals of the foundation, whatever they happen to be. We're going to have some goals that relate to features that customers want us to build. You know, every team has customers and stakeholders. Then we're going to have some goals that the team's going to build so that their product, whatever system it is that they're building, is more responsive to what they feel is important for their users. And then we're going to have some goals that come from tech debt or modernization. And every quarter, you know, all of us will sit together and we'll make the right choices. So this is a tool, hopefully, that will help us get some visibility into how we prioritize our work. You know, it's really kind of difficult when your head's down and, you know, you're executing as fast as you can, kind of step up and think, oh my God, you know, I spent all this quarter building new features and I haven't done any tech debt. Or conversely, I've just spent 6 months doing just tech debt and nothing else. So hopefully, with that kind of visibility, we'll be able to make, you know, better informed trade-offs about the work that we do. I don't know if this kind of answers the question properly or not, but in my mind, you know, code reviews is part of kind of housekeeping, both inside and outside the kind of the strict confines of the foundation. Jim?
Any questions in the room or any comments in the room or online? Good.
We answered it?
We have a brave soul there.
Hi, I'm Adam Way. So you're suggesting that we break engineers into roles to address different issues? I don't see how that fits with silos. Maybe I misunderstood.
No. So what I'm suggesting is that we split our goals into categories. And we don't split them, actually we annotate them so that we make sure that we understand what the balance is that we are going for every quarter. So an engineer could be working on tech debt one quarter and, you know, feature the next. It's just overall, as teams and as technology and product, I want us to have visibility into how we prioritize our work at any given time.
And the silos are continuing the same work as usual.
So I think silos is a loaded term.
Yes, it is.
I think there is a team structure that for the foreseeable future is going to continue like it is. Although, you know, there are changes that are made as needed. And we can talk about those at some point today. For example, the labs team, I see Brian. Where's Brian? Brian is sitting over there. So Brian Davis will be taking on the responsibility of putting together a labs team. That's something that we kind of have today, but we're making an adjustment to make sure that we give it the priority it needs and so on. So I prefer to speak in terms of teams versus silos. That's a good example. Hopefully Brian is going to have an unconference session to tell everybody all the great things he's going to do. No. Just a suggestion.
No pressure.
Okay, since this was a clarification question, we let Adam go back to his seat without any action. Okay. Okay, second question then. During the next year or so, what balance do you think we should strike between new projects and technical debt?
All right, well, I don't know. So how do we, so I certainly don't know, but I do know a way of arriving at an answer that I think is halfway sensible, right? So as we plan our goals, so actually this is the time of year that we're planning the goals for Q3. By doing this kind of annotation that I talk about, we're all clear about what it is that we're planning on doing. And again, you know, it's something that individual teams and managers need to think about. If you see that you're not making any progress on certain things, on features, because you're doing too much work on tech debt, swap that. You know, be kind of sensible about it, right? So, I think this the question really depends in the context of what it is you're trying to do. If you're trying to do something completely new from the ground up, it's going to be all feature building. If you're going to work on something that's been there for 10, 15 years, chances are there's going to be tech debt. The point is, I don't think there's a balance that is necessarily lacking. I think what is lacking sometimes is attention to the proper trade-offs that we make at any given time. The way that the foundation does its work, on a quarterly basis, we will be making those trade-offs, and we'll be making them, as a team, all the engineering leads together, all the product people together.
I would just add, there's Victoria came in, and one of the first focuses is, well, what are we doing about technical debt? There's a session today. There's also like a commitment from the teams, including myself. Making it more a part of our regular cadence of how we're doing our work is the important thing, and just to make a commitment to it, right? I would also add that hopefully we don't bucket our work into two different buckets. We think more thoughtfully about the whole picture. So annual planning this year and our goals planning is going to be slightly different, which is a good thing. And so as far as new features, though, they should be thoughtfully done based on communities. And so like the discussion yesterday around platforms, where you actually have a PM driving a roadmap, and you have, or an owner driving a roadmap, and you have a commitment of a couple engineers is the right path to help, I think, start telling that story of what you need to build. So I think there's momentum in this area to balance it better, but it's always going to be based on what happens in that annual plan, that year, input from users and events like this. So that's my answer.
Questions? Comments? Good.
I think Kim has done a really good job frightening everybody, right?
Or it's too early.
Don't deviate the conversation. Number 3, how can we encourage more volunteer contributions to the MediaWiki code base?
All right, well, first of all, I think doing a better job of communicating what we plan to do in more channels than we traditionally do them. My last year here has been interesting because we've been trying to encourage this in different ways. I think there's some progress in the community tech team and how we do the community wish list, and we start getting involvement that way and encourage people to participate in what we're building. But I also think it's about not just relying on a mailing list to talk about the things we're doing, actually getting out at conferences, doing more engagement that way, and keeping an open, just doing a good job with Fabricator of communicating. What session was I in yesterday where we were talking about newcomers coming into the organization and having labels that aren't intimidating or confusing so that they can actually participate, having mentors help them get on board and start engaging. That sort of thing is really a good start. So there's a lot of places you can get, I think, go down holes and get lost with all of our documentation and our pages. So some consolidation there too would also be very nice. I'd like to see better documentation to actually encourage that participation.
So I agree with everything that was said. I guess just a more general comment about MediaWiki. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So we had a session on platforms or products too, and I could not agree more. And one of the things that I have kind of personally seen actually in the technology team is that we don't seem to have too many kind of product managers when it comes to the platforms that we're building or maintaining, as in the case of MediaWiki. So that, the fact that we don't have anybody, with that responsibility that creates some problems. Part of the problem is if there are people in the community that indeed wish to make contributions to MediaWiki or they make them, it's not clear what the pathway is from making a contribution and having that become, part of the kind of core distribution, if you like. And that is really, there needs to be a gatekeeper. There needs to be a product manager whose job it is to maintain kind of the integrity of, of the piece of code in terms of features and so on. So one of the things that Wes and I have been talking about with the teams more broadly is really kind of starting to redress a little bit this, okay, how can I say this politically? I don't know how to say it politically, but when I look at the kind of code base that the foundation kind of relies on to deliver on its mission, a lot of this is MediaWiki. There's a whole bunch of other things that we do as well, and Gabriel here runs, a services team that is superb, and while I believe the separation between kind of MediaWiki and the services that we'll continue to build is a good one, because we can't put everything that we need to run the foundation on MediaWiki, it seems to me that we have also neglected it in this past few years, perhaps. I would strongly favor addressing this balance a little bit and having a focus, again, a renewed focus on MediaWiki within the foundation, to have a small team whose job it is, to really, address tech debt on MediaWiki, help the community vector their contributions in the right way and help them incorporate them, and more importantly, having again a single person whose job it is to, put their arms around the product and make sure that both inside and outside the foundation, people have a way of bringing their innovations, their contributions to the code base. So we are, as you know, these are, early days for me. We are going through, well, we will be going through an annual planning process, which will be the first one for me. So I don't exactly understand how it works. Wes understands much better than I. But the intention that we have jointly is to make a proposal that we indeed will create such a small team going forward this coming year.
I'd also say the consistency of using the community wish list through hackathons, through this event, and focusing on that has been helpful to start creating that, just a common way to understand how we actually address things and how to get involved. And so that's been a nice thing to see over the last year. And I'd like to see more of it.
All these volunteers for work. Note takers, please take note.
So this is actually a clarifying question from someone on IRC. Who am I? I'm just a relayer. My name is Greg, release manager. It's related, it's not really clarifying, but it's how do we utilize other affiliated organizations or communities, or I guess communities is broad enough, groups to be contributors to MediaWiki or the Wikimedia generally beyond the usual suspects like Wikimedia Deutschland, etc. Is there a way to reach out to those that we haven't done? The unknowns, the unknown communities.
I think there's a lot of things we've tried or haven't done or can continue to grow. I mean, different things like Idea Lab and other things that have been tried are great pathways, and focusing on those a bit more would be a good thing. I also think that, like, as we go forward and we look at different deals, like a structured data grant that we just got, involves a lot of other partners outside of our normal engagement. And we can have more meaningful conversations through those initiatives. So it's actually written into the grant a bit, so that helps keep us, I think, focused on the idea. Yeah.
So maybe just a plug for Kim's team. Kim, as I understand it, is your team's kind of responsibility to actually engage with the community broadly, and you do that through, for example, the WM Stake
Great
group,
redirect.
right?
Yes, and there's a task about this, but our team is reluctant to engage organizations outside if, when we finally get to excite them, they start contributing and get against all these walls that we are talking: code review, lack of roadmap, etc., etc. So we have a loop to fix there.
I have a quick comment that dovetails with what Greg says, I think, which is just that it seems like the first part of your answers, before Greg pressed further, seemed to me in some degree backwards, in that I think one of the big challenges for open source organizations, and for this one in particular, is that we tend to hire all the good contributors. And so our solution to getting more community involvement is to hire more people and bring more people from the community inside the foundation, and then there's no one left outside, right? And so the community wish list in that sense is kind of a step backwards, in that we're getting the community all excited about these things, and then we're promising that the foundation's going to fix all their problems, right? Or at least the important ones. Right? Where if we said, this is a community wish list which the foundation promises to do nothing about, but will really review your patches well, right? It would probably be less popular in the community, but it might actually encourage more of a community ownership of those issues. And so that's, I like Greg's question, because I'm interested to hear more about how we can support community members without bringing them into the organization, and without Yeah, without sort of, oh, sorry, yeah, because the other thing was, the other thing that you mentioned was bringing contributions from outside into running on the WMF servers into production. And that's, again, that's a very common thing I hear is like, I was just at the Semantic MediaWiki / page cargo session, and that was all about like, how can we get this running on WMF servers? Well, yeah, that seems to be the thing that we're saying is the way to get your thing like actually supported, but it also means that, you know, if that succeeds, the very vibrant community which is out there, which is supporting Semantic MediaWiki, will feel like, you know, we're taking care of it now. They don't have to do that anymore, right? So I'm interested in how we can do less and yet support the community more.
That's an easy question. I give it over to
yeah. I mean, I would just say documentation is one thing, but also like consistent understanding of what it takes to go through code review, you know, engage into Fabricator, what types of labels are accepted, that sort of thing. Mentoring people to come in and to explore more things, not being afraid to talk to people outside of our norms. Yeah.
I mean, you know, my sense is that once we start, you know, really building and maintaining a roadmap, a MediaWiki roadmap, I think that's going to be helpful to people not only inside, not only outside, but also people inside the foundation. Because, you know, in many ways, what you described is something, for example, that I have already seen in our research team. So, you know, they've done, for example, spectacular work with ORs. And this is done in a lab kind of environment. Now the question is, how does that go over to production? And now who maintains it once the service is out there? So I think really the solution to all of this is to have a robust kind of roadmap for all the products that we build. And once, you know, a commitment is made to put something in the roadmap or to bring it into the product, then, you know, the foundation really has to step up and maintain it, right, as we go forward. I think that's, you know, that's the value of having perhaps, you know, dedicated resource inside the foundation for some of these things.
Shall I just? No. Just a reminder, so it was C. Scott, and please tell your names before asking. That's me.
Hi, my name is Dirk-Jan Hartman, and I am a volunteer contributor to the MediaWiki code base. Yesterday we had this discussion about easy tickets and how we can use them to help people on board basically into the process. And I think that it's very, one of the things that came out of that is also that like this is a very fast moving bandwagon to jump on as an outside contributor. And there's basically nothing more important than us going out there and basically mentoring people and making sure that they have the option of jumping on this fast-moving bandwagon. And there's a lot of like human contact, basically, that is required to, human investment to make that actually happen. Like some people might not require that, but those will be much more rare than the people who do require that human interaction to become a successful contributor. And I think, and I feel that there's not enough space for people to exercise that and encouragement to do that, because there's always higher priorities, and any sort of whenever this happens right now, this is purely a personal motivation, which is good, but I think we can be more motivating than just out of pure 9 in the evening personal motivation outside of work encouragement. So that's what I want to say, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So, you know, I totally agree with you. And again, you know, my expectation, and, you know, if that's not true, we can certainly work to fix it, is that there should be in the foundation a team that's dedicated to support the outside developer community. And my understanding as of yesterday was that Kim's team is doing that. Perhaps Kim's team is not doing that today because she has not been vectored that way. But I couldn't agree more, right? I mean, you need a team whose job it is to hold hands, to help people on board, to actually advocate for them as we, you know, make decisions within the foundation about what we prioritize, what we don't. A team that gives them the tools that they need in order to come, you know, to be more productive. And I mean, for me, honestly, the analogy is, you know, I mean, when I was at Palm, right, we were building WebOS for tablets and phones. We relied on third-party app developers. We knew that without them, we wouldn't succeed. So we had a dedicated team that not only did community work, they actually did coding to help them. So they would build out, for example, apps that showcased specific aspects of our frameworks and so on. So you have to be very deliberate about it and very kind of consistent. And it would be my desire certainly to make that available to the community.
So if I can, like from my personal, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, but I sometimes feel that Kim's team is a bit, okay, I'm going to use the word, a bit too siloed, in that they don't have enough of a mandate to go outside of their own team, because I think this is also an organization-wide, something that should be encouraged organization-wide, and I sometimes have the feeling that even though officially that mandate is there, in practice that mandate simply does not translate well enough throughout the rest of the organization, and I think that could be better. So.
Understood. I mean, having authority is not the same as exercising it, right? So you need to, absolutely.
I would just say that I agree with more personal interactions and opportunities for sure, and that session was really great yesterday to talk about some of that. So.
I'm Cindy Chickalese. I'm also, I guess, a volunteer contributor, although I don't, not 9 p.m. on my own time in the evening only. There's a lot of that. But also I work for MITRE Corporation, which is a federally funded research and development center, and I have contributed both to MediaWiki Core as well as a number of extensions. And I would say that, it's a wonderful community, and I've gotten a lot of wonderful interactions with Wikimedia Foundation staff who've helped me with some of the patches that I've submitted and getting things merged. It has not been a pain-free process, but it's been still very rewarding and wonderful interaction. I'm also a member of the MediaWiki stakeholders group, and I hope that we'll also be meeting with you guys to talk a little bit more about our interactions in the community. I just wanted to speak again to the contribution of and the benefits of having the MediaWiki software used not only for the Wikimedia Foundation mission, but also just in the spirit of having code, different pathways through code exercised by different people using it. We've got a lot of our, within government installations as well as other folks that we help with deploying MediaWiki as well as within our own organization. Have determined a lot of different use cases as well as different pathways through the code that have helped, I believe, make the MediaWiki code itself stronger and better. And the more people you have contribute from more different perspectives really makes the code better for everyone. And I've really appreciated the interactions that I've had with the Wikimedia Foundation staff. And I really do like what you say about having a stronger relationship and liaison and a team particularly supporting those outside users, because I think we can all benefit.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I agree on both scores. I think, having more people exercise the code, results in better code for everybody. And having people contribute features that we couldn't, Foundation can build stuff, but, we can't build everything that can be, built in a broader community. So I think it works both ways. I couldn't agree more. I think, honestly, I think this makes perfect sense. But my sense is like we have two engines right now, and they're not connected, so we need to get the gearing right between the two of them. And, it would be my hope that we'll address that, sooner rather than later. It's not like complicated, we just have to do it. I think it's actually, this is a great opportunity for me to hear from all of you what you think is working and what is not quite working the way it should be, because that then gives us, the information that we need to go back and make whatever adjustments we need to make. And please, by the way, continue, that feedback going. This session is going to end, but, I think we're going to try and keep that list active, Kim, past the meeting today. And we will also try to have, I would favor having, for example, monthly IRC sessions that we just do this kind of thing to stay in touch. So I would welcome that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leila. I'm from Wikimedia Foundation's research team. So here we are mostly talking about expanding the developer base around MediaWiki core and improving MediaWiki core. And in my experience as a volunteer, I see a lot of opportunities for bringing in developers for non-MediaWiki core. So basically, there are a lot of things that are being done by the community for Wikimedia projects which are not about the core code base. And I see a lot of opportunities for encouraging people to basically contribute to those areas. And when I think about the work that we do in the Wikimedia Foundation, I feel that a lot of our responsibility is basically empowering like chapters and affiliates to bring these people in the whole ecosystem. Right? Instead of thinking of basically taking all the work on ourselves, basically Wikimedia Foundation, how about thinking more also about how to kind of have a more inclusive ecosystem in which the chapters are empowered to bring in more developers, because at the end of the day, we are very small and we are meant to be small.
I agree. I mean, part of some efforts with Wikimedia Deutschland was really exploring our chapter relationship and how we expand that from a development perspective. And it's been a very rewarding experience for me personally, but it's also been very great to see how it affects some of the efforts for the movement. So, but beyond that, different types of technology, we're a knowledge organization, so we should explore everything, right?
And I agree with with you, Lelia, and Wes. And again, an observation. I mean, we're really fortunate in having people from the outside that they would be thinking about and doing work to contribute to what we're going to do. I mean, that is a privilege that is really wonderful, and it's very unusual. So we should make that kind of engine as efficient and as productive as we can. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chad. Just a comment on what you guys were all just talking about. I've thought about that for a little while now. Like, my whole idea recently has been like, we have the community wish list and we're going to do the top 10 things. Like, let's get items 11 through 20 and like see if another chapter can like take those on. Sure. and try and get the other things done that we can't do. But my question for you both is, like with any organization, sometimes projects don't succeed. We have endeavors that we go down and they just don't work. And my question is, how do we measure when a project isn't working, when something that we're trying to do just isn't going to work out, and deciding to back away from it and not do it anymore instead of doubling down and trying to force it to completion when it's not going to work out?
Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, first you start with a roadmap, right? You got to actually say what's important to you as a group, and then we don't do it well. I'll just be blunt.
Nobody does it well.
Nobody does it well.
It's
some people do it
difficult.
better than us, but sometimes it's just making that decision. And there's been a couple instances this year where we've at least come together as a group, as an organization, to identify a couple things, but we didn't look holistically at the entire backlog, right? And we need to get to that point where we can look at that a lot better. Building a small team to start that and look at the actual, sheer amount of tasks that have been handled, and also review all of the different things that we support, is something that we're working on. We have another session later today to talk about some of that stuff. But I also know from the product teams, we've listed out the types of things that we're supporting right now. We need to do a better job of actually then supporting the things that we need to shut down. We've done a couple things with services where we've looked into, community adoption. We've done some additional things around analytics to start understanding how much it's being used or not used. Now it's really getting to the point where you can say, make decisions, provide the rationale and explain it with everybody before you just kill it, and move forward.
So, I mean, I just, to add to that, I mean, starting things is easy. Stopping things is virtually impossible, right? And I believe that's true for, for all organizations, not just us. So, what can help? Well, I think, having really the fortitude, the kind of the intestinal fortitude to say no when we know that, and that doesn't just mean management, by the way, that, that has to permeate the organization. I mean, more than any other organization, whatever we do is paid for by contributions by people that read, use our products. So we, every single person here needs to be an advocate for those dollars that come in. And the point that you see that something just ain't working, say so, right? don't wait. I think that's one thing, so it's cultural. The other thing is, the way that we do our work. So if, for example, everything that we do has well-defined and measurable goals, and we see that, quarter after quarter, we miss our goals, then, maybe we can't do the work, or maybe, the goal is unattainable. Either case, you take stock and you decide if you will continue or otherwise. So I think, it's both cultural, but also the way that we manage our operations and how we decide what our goals are plays into that.
We have been 30 minutes here. Half of that time went to this question, and actually we started deriving out of it. So that's my contribution as facilitator. We still have more about this. Remember that the more questions or the more comments to this one are stopping the question number 4.
Okay, following up on the other remark about scaling and leveraging other people's work, I think 2 developer audiences where we actually are relatively successful at doing that is using upstream code. We have adopted quite a few projects that have a community outside of the people that are in this room. And we just use their work. Like we contribute some things back, but for the most part, they're invisible right now. But I think they still have a very large contribution to what we get to do. And I think we should acknowledge that and possibly also manage that relationship a little bit more consciously, because their contribution is huge. And this is very scalable because they have a community of their own, and they're sustainable outside, and they have ownership of their project. The other is that Leila also emphasized is that we provide APIs, and we have a lot of people building tools around that. And I think that's a second distinct developer community that we invite, and that is also very scalable because people have ownership of their respective parts. So I think I see this as 3 different parts, and one of them is the platform itself, but the 2 others are kind of outside.
So good morning, I'm James Hare. I am something of a product owner who is partially funded by the Wikimedia Foundation, but through grant making rather through product. And so I work on software features for Wikipedia editors. I originally come from the community. Over time, I recognized some needs the community had, and I figured I'd turn this into an actual project, and we're making some progress. But it's kind of an interesting thing because there's actually a few of us now. There's ORS, the AI service was originally a grant-funded project, and I think there's also now a content mining project that is also funded through a grant. But we're in this interesting position where we're not part of the foundation, but we're not totally third-party either. We're like midway between the foundation and third-party. And I do appreciate the independence to some extent because I think it gives us a better position to experiment than if we were a part of an institution. But on the other hand, I do think we would benefit from some kind of coordination so that we're not totally outside of the loop. And so I'm wondering what the Wikimedia Foundation can do to have a more untraditional but more inclusive approach to product development, where you have not only your internal product teams, but you also have external product teams that somehow, skunkworks is what he said, but how does you have like a product team that includes the Wikimedia Foundation, but also people outside of the Wikimedia Foundation that are all working toward the same goal?
For me, that's starting to have common anchors of understanding, whether that's best practices, documentation, or just code review practices, things like that. You need to have enough that there's some sort of consistent language, but then the freedom to explore beyond the boundaries of what any one institution may have, right? It'd be nicer to blur the lines, make it much easier for anybody to follow the same sort of set of ideas and then be able to contribute the code for everybody, right? We do some of that well, we don't do some of it well. The process with the TCG, technical collaboration guidelines, is a step in a direction of trying to identify the types of things we hold important for doing development. That's going to continue to grow and change and be discussed, so that's one thing.
And I think since I'm one of the first people doing this, like traditionally the grant-making teams never funded software. Was one of the first exceptions, but since I was going to do this anyway, I know you want action items out of this, but I think I feel I'm responsible for coming up with guidelines on how to externally develop a product and just how to make that transition from being a purely community member to someone who is actively involved in the product process as someone trying to, you know, on a somewhat professional scale, trying to actually develop things that users need, and as opposed to just pure hobbyist development, which is also useful. But I would like to help in making that more reality for other people, because I know that there are other people out there who are interested in this stuff. So I look forward to making further progress on this.
So thank you first of all for for the volunteering. And I mean, I think the comment that I want to make is that being able to kind of develop and deliver solutions of whatever variety to the world today is an ecosystem story. Anywhere you look, right? The most successful kind of technologies in people's hands, they come from ecosystems. And what you're talking about is how do we honor, value, take advantage of, bring into the fold that ecosystem on which really this foundation and its mission depends, right? So, again, I want us to be very thoughtful about it, and it sounds like, we have a great deal, of good material to work with. We just need to make sure that, we create these linkages between that community and what we do inside. So, I mean, to me, that actually is kind of interesting. I had more or less assumed that this was happening. Since it's not happening, this is, great, great feedback. And I'm sure that, you'll be hearing from us on this in the not too distant future. So, thank you.
I have another one from IRC. This one's from Katie Odd. Basically, the question revolves around the topic that we talked about yesterday about the architecture committee and platforms or products too. That whole topic. Her question is mostly around where and how does the RFC process fit in with roadmaps, fit in with annual planning, fit in with everything else that we do as an organization. And I think it depends on which way you want to look at it, right? Does the RFC feed up into the annual planning, or does the annual planning affect the RFC process? So take that.
Please answer this question, keeping in mind volunteer contributions, which is the topic.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's her perspective as well, is I might be over-speaking her point, but that could be an avenue of affecting the roadmap.
I think I'm not understanding. Did you say RC? What is this?
RFC, sorry.
Oh, RFC, what is this?
The Architecture Committee's RFC process, the request for comments process, where everything that the Architecture Committee does revolves around right now. People propose RFCs, explain the problem, what's the solution, next steps, right, and then discuss it and all that, right?
So in my mind, really it's the job of whoever is the product owner or the product manager for this platform to make sure that, all that input, is brought to the table, is discussed, prioritized, sorted through, and then committed to or not, and, having that kind of determination be made plain. I mean, without a focus, of somebody whose job it is really to make these calls, you're in this Netherland where, people feel like contributions are made, but, they're like, throwing pasta on the wall. It doesn't stick most of the time. So I think the answer, in my sense, is that, again, we create a focus through creating a product manager for MediaWiki and other components of the platform, other core components of the platform. Some of them, like get more, more visibility just because they're new, perhaps, and some don't. But I think it will be incumbent upon us to have a much more kind of, thorough delivery process for all the components that, and all parts of the community, to a previous questionnaire.
Hi. My name is Mort Schubotz, and I'm a volunteer developer, and my main focus is on math. I wanted to somehow share the experience I made as a volunteer. And first of all, I think the big game changer where it started to make fun rather than to be frustrating was when I got real contacts at Wikimedia, so actual people to talk to. And I think this is one of the major points, that you don't only have fabricator tasks, code review, and so on and so forth, so that you have actual people that you can talk to. And I'm a researcher, and now I have a lot of students, and I'm trying to motivate them to bring their research developments to actual products, and to try to, if it's possible, to somehow move them into production. And what I see is that the reason why they somehow also face similar problems that I faced in the beginning is simply because they are making mistakes. So they are filing fabricator tasks which have no real answer. I mean, they're hard to answer. So like, I want to build this and this project. Can someone help me to build it? And of course, nobody replies anything. And I think it's maybe one of the most important things to have one contact for each person who wants to contribute to Wikimedia products, that he gets some guidance and sees what is his mistakes, and that you really get honest feedback. Because if you submit a patch which is bad, probably everybody is friendly, and nobody will say, okay, forget about it, this is really crap.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the mentoring stuff to actually get people to engage with someone to see their work through. So if they take an easy task, they don't just, maybe it's not easy for them. They can actually have some help, and then there's some consistency to actually get it through to keep the conversation. One challenge I've noticed is, we do office hours and we do different things like that, but it's lacking some of that more personal connection that you could possibly do through video chats or through actual engagements where you're at hackathons and that sort of thing. So I'd like to see more of that too. I think the personal connection helps grow things quicker. Being a remote person myself within the organization, I get challenged with that on a regular basis. So.
There's still 2 people, and I think I can propose that please quickly, and then let's move on to the next one.
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm not very good at asking quickly, so I'll really try. So I work at the foundation. I do a lot of mentoring programs. And for me, my experience is that our documentation is absolutely atrocious. And it is a really, really huge barrier to entry, especially to people who have never dealt with our code before. It's really good to say that engineers should document more, and for the most part, we do for the code, but we are not really good and trained at how to write documentation for developers, and wiki and stuff like that. Can we deal with this? Can we get someone to write these things that actually know what they're doing? A tech writer?
Maybe a tech writer?
Yes, please.
We tried to hire a tech writer and we couldn't, or we hired them and they couldn't tech write.
Okay, we need to speak with mics. Let's not talk about the tech writer right now. It is a problem, and we can discuss the problem.
We acknowledge the documentation needs to be better.
Hi, my name is Yuri. I figured I'll write my question so it's more concise. I have been a volunteer contributor and developer for the past 11 years, foundation employee for the past 4 years. My question is, how do you reconcile the desire of foundation to structure and plan and manage projects versus the open source movement culture and values of ad hoc development and contributions?
Okay, so let me just take a crack at this, and please, Wes, pipe up. So, the foundation is a very interesting kind of animal, right? It's interesting because it cannot possibly succeed without participation from the outside. In fact, the foundation was very small not a few years ago, and my understanding is it's grown quite a bit, but most of the work, most of the value that the project created came from the outside. I don't think that there is a fundamental kind of divide inside or outside. I think it's a matter of setting the right priorities at the right time. And I think the only way that you can do that is by having everybody around the table, is to having somebody, again, whose responsibility it is, to learn what is needed from the outside, as well as from the inside, and bringing that in. But I will tell you, at the end of the day, I mean, I personally couldn't care less if it's outside or inside. What I care about is for the foundation to deliver on its mission, which is free knowledge for everyone. So, if that is kind of the yardstick that we use to measure everything we do, really we should be able to make those choices without too much heartache. And I will make a statement here which may be a little controversial in this room, but, suppose that, there is a choice now to be made, and again, either it comes from the inside or the outside, that benefits the open source community that is built around the foundation, but it's to the detriment, for example, of the educational goals of the foundation. That's a hard one to solve, right? So how do you solve that? Again, in my book, the mission always wins. In other words, the open source movement has been, critically important for the foundation's success. But in my mind, it's a means to an end versus the end. This is Victoria speaking. I'm not speaking now as corporate or anything like this, but that's how I would make those trade-offs.
I would say that great tools, good documentation, removing the friction of actually being able to do things, not having to go through 12 people or anything like that to get something done, having a clear set of guidelines that if I'm going to commit this code and I'm going to push it for release, it's going to have the confidence of our community that it's been thoroughly reviewed and that it's not going to blow anything else up. Providing tooling, providing a better lab system that's like robust, confident, doesn't go down, so that you can constantly try different things is how I see it. We shouldn't be doing all of the work by any means. We should be empowering the work that other people can do. I think it follows some of the same things, not being rigid in our approach to how we think about what gets developed, and also encouraging more conversation, bringing more volunteers into the organization that aren't rigid or siloed in their thought, being more remote friendly. Those types of things all lead to a better conversation from a lot more angles, right? If you only think from one perspective and you only follow one plan without being open to talking about it every quarter or every few months or all the time on the channel, you eliminate the possibility of growth. So, does that answer it better?
Okay, so a bit more than 10 minutes to go. I haven't cut anyone because as a privileged witness, I can say that every single person who has come to the mic has spent plenty of time as a volunteer developer, while being only volunteer developer, also while working at the foundation or somewhere else, and yeah, 9 p.m. or later or whatever time zone. So thank you for all the people who
We've also answered some other questions on the list as we've been going through the conversation. So yeah, after we go back, we'll try to correlate the notes to some of the other questions.
Definitely, but I'll keep my joke about the actions. No action points for all these people because they are already doing a lot of work in that direction. So thank you very much personally.
Thank you from me also, clearly. I mean, like I say, this place doesn't work without contributions from the outside. So thank you all. And sorry if we ever fail you. I don't think it ever happens on purpose. But,
Okay, 10 minutes to go. Let's try with question number 4. What is the biggest threat to Wikimedia, MediaWiki, in terms of technology?
Well, okay, so I have a T in my title, so maybe I should just talk about that for a moment. So I think a couple of things. One is how do I say that? There's no English word for this. Monolithicity, if that was a word. The world is kind of very complicated, right? So we used to be able to do, when I started the first time I wrote a program was 1978. And, back in 1978, you wrote everything, everything, in order to make anything work. Fast forward, we now kind of rely on innovation and kind of code products from all over the place. And that's how we make progress, right? That's how we create a productivity that is, through the roof and so on. So I think, having a notion that there can be one single piece of code that we as the foundation and its community, maintain and advance, and that can see us into the future, I think is a fallacy. I think, we need to, leverage what others are doing like crazy. I mean, so all these companies in the Valley, they talk about open innovation. So, you get companies from all over the world, they look into the Valley to take part into open innovation. And what they mean by that is borrowing technologies from others. Now, to give you an example, machine learning. I mean, every man and their dog on the planet are investing on that. Do we believe that within the foundation we can build the best kind of machine learning algorithms in the planet? No, I don't believe that. Can we build things that are specialized to what we want to do? Absolutely. Should we be leveraging work that others are doing, like TensorFlow, for example? We would be crazy not to. So I think that's kind of the first part that kind of I would like to share with you. We need to keep an open mind and kind of leverage innovation from wherever it comes. Let's not be like, religious about, my goodness, it has to be part of MediaWiki core, otherwise, it's not good. Forget about that. The other thing that strikes me, and again, this is, somebody who's, really still on the outside. I'm on the inside, but also on the outside. And I've not been an editor. I've kind of toyed with it in the past, never really thought about doing it, seriously. But I like to use our products, so I've started playing a little bit with editing, and it kind of strikes me how kind of difficult, how elaborate. I mean, it reminds me, like of how programming was, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. And why do I say that? I think it represents really a trend, not a trend, it represents a status within the community and the foundation that has diverged a lot from what I call almost like, I don't know, casual computing, if you like. This is really visible in the case of editing. It's also visible in the case of reading, especially on tablets. Those of you that use the product on tablets, you will see, for example, load time is atrocious and so on. So why do I say all that? I think that, as well as kind of understanding that innovation will come from many places and we should be open to bringing it, to the mission. The other thing that I think we are at a disadvantage today is this whole thing about mobility. And I know, the foundation in the past has tried to address this, and there have been ups and downs. But nonetheless, I think we are at the place today where it almost feels like the world, has passed us by when it comes to things like editing, for example. Yesterday actually was, I don't know if you noticed, yesterday was the anniversary of the introduction of the iPhone. So Steve Jobs stood up, a few miles down the street here and introduced the iPhone to the world. And if you look at the impact that that has had, and yes, we have apps and we have this and that, but actually, what it has done is it took computing, it took this really very kind of esoteric thing that, some of us kind of learned, back in the day when it was really kind of complicated, and made it something that is available on tap to most people. When you sit on your, on your couch at night and, you watch, TV and you have your tablet on tap, you don't make an investment, a deliberate action to have that compute available to you. It's just there. So, what the iPhone and what the mobility kind of movement has done is it turned computing from an esoteric kind of, infrastructure capability for the few to casual, available technology for everyone. So if you take that paradigm and you think about how that applies to, for example, the creation of the content in Wikipedia, we are behind. There's no drag and drop of images, for example, in Wikipedia. I mean, these are very simple things. So I think, what we need to do, this is the kind of second step of the question. If this indeed is a threat, what do we do about it? I think, we just need to to think how we want to represent knowledge to the world, and where will this knowledge come from? Will it only come, for example, from truly encyclopedic communities, or will it also come from communities that create this knowledge casually, as it is also consumed casually? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's a question that we should be asking ourselves as a community and as a foundation.
Yeah, for me, the risk is if we don't fund a team to work on the roadmap, we're not going to make any progress, right? And so that has to happen in our annual plan this year. It's that simple. If we don't do that, it's a huge risk. We'll just continue to have the same conversations we've had for years over years, and we need a point of progress. Commitment, which means committing to removing code that doesn't work anymore, and it's okay. That's how you also progress. Rewrite the whole thing? No, just kidding. But I think risk is something that you perceive either as a fearful thing or as an opportunity. For me, the risks of inaction eliminates all of our opportunities, right? So commit to a date, commit to moving forward on something. It doesn't mean it has to happen that day. It just means that you have a milestone to work against. And then lastly, flexibility. And well, I would include documentation and everything else that we talked about it for clarity. But flexibility means not being rigid. Our guest speaker said that yesterday. You know, learning a new language is an okay thing. It's how you grow. If you don't bend with the wind, you know, you break. So I think being flexible in all the different types of technology that are coming in and the different ways of actually conveying our content is something for us to encourage and to encourage that exploration. And we have the opportunity in our roles to help empower that, but we need clear, concise proposals and plans to work with you guys to make those resources available. So we're a risk if we don't understand what needs to be done, just like we have the risks out there if we don't commit to a specific sort of timeline and specific set of teams. So I'd really like to see this all happen this year. Of course, ambitious. I know you guys, in different ways, we've talked about the same things over and over again, but I think it's time to commit to some stuff and move forward. So. There's always going to be risks.
All right. I think the time and the moment is good to leave it here. Thank you very much for all these ideas to both sides of the room and beyond in the internet. So yeah, Victoria West, thank you very much. So now we have a long-ish break. The unconference sessions for the day are now scheduled in the wall, and during the break we are going to put them online in the program. Good, thank you very much.